Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel. So recently I've uploaded a two-part video, which is the second episode on the metaphysical side of internal martial art. So the second episode, which is on the meaning of qi, what it is and how does it benefit martial art training. Now after making that two video, I've realized that there are some points that I kind of forgot to mention, or I should rather reinforce, which is why I'm making this follow-up video, just to briefly give out another 3 points that I forgot to mention in the previous video. So first of all, in the previous video, I've mentioned that the inability of having blood flow you can experience by sitting on your hand, right, and making them numb. You realize that your movement is hindered. But obviously that is not exactly a very good example. That's just an example that I stood up on the spot. A better example would be when you have an anxiety attack, right? Whether it is the first time you do public speaking, first time you stand in front of a crowd and having to address people, the first time you get into a fight, or when you are scared, all kind of situations in life that give you anxiety, you'll find that your hand and feet gets cold and you have uncontrollable kind of shake and shiver on your hand or even on your body. And when that happens, you'll find that you kind of lose this function on your limb. They feel a bit numb and less responsive, right? When you have an anxiety attack, or when you're very nervous or scared, your body don't perform nearly as well, right? Especially for those of you that does martial art competitions, you will know that the first time you go up to the stage or to the arena, you perform a lot worse than when you're training at home or in your school, because of the way your heart beat really fast, the lack of blood flow to your body. Your movement just doesn't go as well, doesn't have as much flow, as much power. Same with fighting, right? The first time you get into a fight, chances are that your punches have no power. You might think that normally when you punch a punching bag, you can hit the bag quite hard, but in the actual fight, often you'll find that you try to hit hard, but it just feels really light. So all of these are examples of either anxiety attack or being scared, etc. But from the Chinese culture, martial art perspective, that can also be understood as a lack of qi or a lack of blood flow. Okay, the fact that you have anxiety attack or that kind of feeling, it kind of reduces the amount of blood that goes into your hand, which is why they feel cold and they feel slightly numb and non-responsive. And under that circumstance, your movement quality, your power, your speed, your reflex, your accuracy all get a lot worse. But of course, accuracy and stuff is also affected by your mind and your brain, which is also affected by the anxiety attack. So it's not just the physical blood flow to your hand, but obviously even the anxiety to your brain is also affected by blood flow. So you can see how the idea of qi, once you understood it as blood flow, is much easier to make sense to understand why the Chinese martial art people back in the days believed that having a stronger flow of qi will give you a better performance in fighting. Now of course, there's no to say that if you train your qi internal stuff properly, then you'll never get anxiety attack. Okay, the internal training of martial arts does not help with anxiety attack. The only way to deal with that is to go out and fight people and get over the fear of fighting people. Okay, if you've been to 20, 30 fights, you reach a point where you don't actually feel anything when you fight people, and some people even feel excited. And only at that point you actually negate this anxiety attack. Before that, it's always there. So the training, internal training, cultivation of qi or whatever they call it, does not help with anxiety attack. What it does help with is to think about it in this way, right? If your blood flow, qi flow, whatever you want to call it, is the same thing, is 100%. And when you are in a stressful situation or when you have anxiety or performance issues, mental burden, you maybe perform at 40% of your 100%. So obviously if your blood flow is stronger than normal people, so let's say you have like 150% of an average person's blood flow, then 40% of that is more than 40% of 100% of blood flow. Obviously this is not exact science, right? Just to give you a rough idea that in internal martial art, when you build up your qi, which is basically improving your blood flow. When you get hindered by anxiety or fear, you will perform a bit more than someone who hasn't really cultivated that. So that is the first thing you need to realize. Secondly, actually, in internal martial arts, when you have anxiety attacks and that kind of state of your body and mind, you actually would perform worse than if you're doing external style or modern combat sport. Now the reason for that is because in external style modern combat sport, you tense up. Well, not completely like tense, but you tense the muscles when you deliver punches. So even with anxiety attack and fear and all of those things that hinders you, you can still tense your muscle. You might not punch as hard as before, but you will do semi-decent. You can still punch. I mean, with some training, right? I mean, if you're untrained, you're gonna find that within that kind of state, your hit have no power at all. But if you have done enough muscle training, if you can just tense your muscle and throw a hit like you normally would, it will still do some damage. Not as much as it would be when you're in a relaxed environment, but it do substantial damage because it's easier to tense the muscles when delivering a punch. Now, obviously, if you're having anxiety attack, you'll find that very fast you start to kind of get numb and tired and worn out because you can't control your breathing properly, which doesn't control your circulation properly, so you worn out a lot faster, of course. But under that few seconds of time where you can strike, you probably do a lot better than someone who does internal martial arts. The reason for that is because internal martial arts, you don't want to stress the muscle, right? When you do a lot of the strikes, the majority of the time, your muscles are mostly relaxed. What you want to do is to strike people with a skeletal structure. If you don't know about this, you should check my previous video. The first one is on the physics behind internal, right? That will give you a good background understanding, and after that you can check out the video on the 4 fundamental forces. So those videos will give you a better understanding of what I mean by skeletal force. So now internal martial arts, you actually want to hit people with a skeletal frame. So you don't want to tense up the muscles. And when you are in that state, you need the blood flow to sort of inflate your blood vessels and thus your arms or your body, etc. So when the blood actually is kind of drawing away from your hands, when you have anxiety attack, your structure is actually less than what it would be when you are relaxed, when all the blood are flowing properly, all the joints are extended, right? When you have anxiety attack, it's very hard to maintain that state. Which is why, if you take 2 novices or beginners, those who use muscle will perform a lot better. This is partially the reason, right? Not the complete reason, but partially the reason that a lot of these so-called internal masters perform really badly when they actually go into a fight. Of course, a huge majority of them, they just plain suck, right? There's no excuse for that. They don't even know what they're doing. But what I'm trying to say is that even the occasional cases where someone who has some, degree of internal structure, they still suck in an actual conflict or, against someone in the ring, because the moment they feel that fear for the first time, they're going to do a lot worse than someone who's relying on their muscles, right? Their structure is much harder to function properly without the correct blood flow. Which is why external style, well, some of them at least, and of course, important, especially modern combat sport, they don't talk about qi or this kind of flow of energy because they don't actually rely heavily on it. In my previous video, I did mention that everyone have to make use of blood flow. As long as you're doing movement with the body, the blood flow plays a part, aka qi plays a part. So if you're doing Chinese martial art or internal martial art, it doesn't make you special. It doesn't give you something different as far as qi is concerned, right? I mean, you do things differently in terms of skeletal structure and how you apply your force and all of that. But as far as qi is concerned, as far as blood is concerned, you are not having anything special. Everyone is using, their body makes use of blood to do actions, okay? But within that context, external martial arts, especially combat sport, they rely less on the flow of blood. So even with that being hindered, they will perform better than those who does internal martial arts. Which is why internal martial arts spend way more time talking and practicing about this concept of cultivation of qi. Right? When you're doing a stance practice, other than learning the structures and forming a habit, opening of joints and all of that we've discussed in the previous videos, is also there so that you can relax your muscles and sort of let your blood flow the way you need it to flow. You don't actually control this. Very importantly, common misunderstanding is that internal martial art, you wanna channel your qi to circulate in a certain way. Gonna go from here to there, up there and over there, following certain channels. Okay, now there are Taoist practices that does that, right? Like the 小周天 circulation, etc., etc. But internal martial art as a whole doesn't actually do that. At least I know in Tai Chi it does not, and in Xing Yi I'm pretty sure it does not either. Not sure about Bagua because most of the legitimate Bagua lineage has pretty much died out by now, and Yiquan does not talk about that at all, right? So in this, and of course Wu Xing Tong Bei don't particularly talk about it. They talk about the concept of qi, which we've explained in the previous video, is the flow of blood, but they don't have a specific method for it to flow. In fact, in Tai Chi Classic, it says that qi need to flow naturally. Qi follows yi, and you control yi. You don't control qi. So when you're in a stance, for example, by relaxing everything and pulling out everything, you're pretty much opening the path for your blood to circulate. Okay. And by holding this for a substantial amount of time, you are basically building up the circulation flow, right? Of course, you need to guide your postures with your yi, intent. If you don't know what that is, there is already 2 videos on the meaning of yi. But in doing so, naturally your blood will flow in a certain way, and through doing it for a very long time, as I mean, not just one session, but through years of doing this, you gradually increases the blood flow. Okay, which is why when you're doing stance practice, often people will feel that their hand gets warm, it pulsates, it feels like it's slightly swollen, the body feels like it's slightly swollen. Those are all signs of blood flowing more than you are used to. So in doing this for a very long time, there are many benefits, right? First of all, that's actually where the health benefit of training internal martial art comes from. Often people believe that cultivating energy is something secretive, internal elixir, all of that stuff. The pill of longevity. I can't really comment on whether that is real or not. That's like a Taoist practice. I haven't delved enough into it, or rather, I should say, I didn't do it myself to an extent that I can tell you it does have an effect. Right? Anything that I haven't experienced myself, I can't tell you, that it is true. So I don't actually know. But what I can tell you is the main health benefit of doing internal martial art is actually to open the correct path so your blood can flow unhindered. What that means is that you don't channel your blood to a certain position, unlock blockage and all of that. Those are external martial arts in China. Some of them does that, but internal martial art actually don't believe in that. Right? Internal martial art, what you actually do is, for example, if normally you sit in front of a computer and you kind of arch, right? Because that's what all of us do when we spend hours and hours in front of a computer. What that happens is that it kind of climbs up your spine, right, and your torso. And in doing so, a lot of these parts is kind of, the blood vessels are bent or kind of, compressed. So the blood doesn't flow through them as well as it should be. Okay, so in internal martial arts, one of the first things you do is to straighten your spine and pull your head up. And once you do that, then more blood will flow towards your head, right? Then if you're like that. And of course it will flow downwards to the body, and when you stretch out your shoulder blade and everything, it just creates a better environment for the blood to flow through every part of your body. Whereas if you're in a very compacted position all day working, a lot of time it get kind of cramped up, which is why a lot of modern day office people, they have all kind of weird health issues like stiff neck, stiff shoulder. Of course, stress, mental stress, and a lot of other things come to play as well. But the posture itself also plays a huge role. So by spreading everything out and forming an ideal, posture and structure, you're basically gradually improving the blood flow. Right? This doesn't happen overnight. It's not that you do it for one time and all of a sudden your blood flow is better. It takes a while, especially if you have been in a wrong, posture for a very long time. Then the blockage tend to take longer to overcome. But if you do those stances, bit by bit every day, then gradually it will kind of let the blood flow through those blockages, and that's basically one of the main health benefits of internal martial arts that is different to other sport, right? Because as long as you are moving and doing sports, you have health benefits, okay? Internal martial arts are not the only ones that give you health benefit. If you just move around, right, instead of sitting on your chair at the office, sitting on your sofa at home, if you just stop sitting around all day, you go around and you do things, your body will become healthier, right? The fact that the moment you're doing exercise, the moment you're moving, blood flows better than if you are sitting still. It's just that internal martial art focus more on the posturing, right? Let's say if you're running, which is a very good exercise, right? I have nothing against running and jogging, but obviously if you run with the wrong habit, for example, you run with your spine curved, with your head dangled, then although you are still getting fit from the lung capacity and and stamina and all of that, but you're actually still having problem with your neck and your shoulder and your spine and a lot of other things. And if your blood flow on your spine is bad, it can lead to a lot of different problems. Okay, so internal martial arts, one of the advantages is that it forces you to be in the correct structure. When you're running, people don't actually force you in the correct structure. And of course, even if you know about the correct, pose or the posture when you run, the moment you get tired, you kind of just run however you can sustain running. Okay, but when you're doing something still for training, for a change, then a lot of your awareness goes into checking if your body structure, if this positioning of your body part are correct. So in that sense, it gives a different or more unique benefit to health, right? It fixes your posture and increases the correct blood flow. But again, that's not saying that running is not good for you. It's not saying anything other exercise is not good for you. Okay, it's just that any exercise is good for you as long as you do them correctly. But internal martial arts tend to have more focus on the correct posture and correcting your skeletal frame than most of the other exercises out there, right? That is the only uniqueness to it. Other than that, there's no such thing as cultivation of qi, a secret power that will make you suddenly more healthier than doing other sports. In fact, if you check actual records, majority of the internal masters don't actually live that long. I mean, they don't die young per se, unless they get in an accident or get killed in a fight. But they don't actually have the evidence to back up that they actually live longer than other average people. Okay, there are people who doesn't do any exercise and live to 90, and there are people who does internal martial art and are masters who die in the 60s. So living longer or not is not exactly a good measurement to the health benefit of internal martial art. So don't get fooled by people telling you that his master lived to 90 and is really healthy. That could just be a rare case of genetic, right? He maybe have longevity genes, maybe his lifestyle is healthy. There are billions of other factors that affect how long a person will live besides training martial arts. That is actually a very small factor compared to everything else. So you need to know that internal martial art does have its unique health benefit, but it is not magic, right? Internal martial art masters don't always live longer than average people. What actually affects or directly influence your longevity are correct living habit, right? When do you sleep? When do you wake up? When do you eat? Substantial amount of exercise, not over exercise. That's another thing that people tend to overlook, is that most people who train to get better at something, right? Whether it is fighting or sports in terms of competition sport, like I want to jump higher, I want to run faster, I I want to do this better than other people. The moment any physical activity becomes a competition, it's no longer healthy. Okay, you actually end up damaging your body more than it benefits. Which is why all the professional sport athletes have injuries, right? And when they get older, they have like serious injuries and they will have to retire. Very few have zero injuries until they retire. Most of them retire due to injury, not to other things. So this is the same thing with martial arts. When you're doing martial arts on a professional level, internal martial art, included, you're not going to be as healthy as someone who does it on a casual level, right? Let's say if you want to do it for health purpose, you do a stunt for 10 minutes, you already feel the blood flow properly, you already feel like you're getting more energetic, but you're also getting tired, then you stop, right? Then you have your exercise for the day. But if you want to get internal power, structure, and all of that, you have to push yourself to 1 hour, 2 hours, and then maybe do 3 sessions a day, up to 6 hours. And then eventually that will form you the correct body mechanic that you use to hit people. But that doesn't always mean that it is healthy, okay? So just bear in mind that martial art masters, the better they are at fighting, the less likely they are as a health example. Okay, anyway, so that is slightly straying off the topic, right? So the topic that I'm trying to get at is that the blood flow and the posturing, which directly affects how your blood flow, is one of the more unique benefits of training internal martial arts. So with that said, we're going to look at the next point, right? Which is my previous video I did mention that all sports, including combat sport, internal martial arts, they all use blood. The more you move your body, you use blood. But obviously, internal martial art talks more about blood, and there's a conception that believes that when you're doing Tai Chi, you get healthier than other sports. Right? I already addressed that any sport, if you do it correctly to a substantial amount and don't overdo it, it will give you health benefit. So where does internal martial art have advantage in terms of health? Right? The cultivation of qi or blood, who does it benefit? So basically, internal martial art, as far as health goes, it benefits people who are inherently unhealthy. Okay, let's say if you're like an average healthy person, then it doesn't really make a difference to you. You can go do boxing, MMA, jogging, anything, right? Correctly provided with the correct technique and method, you'll get healthier, right? It's nothing. Internal martial art isn't going to make you healthier compared to any of the other sport options. But let's say you're someone that's unhealthy, right? You either have low blood pressure, high blood pressure, heart problems, asthma, or what kind of other things. Not saying that if you have these problems, you can't do combat sport or any of the other exercises. You still can. But when you're doing something that is more strenuous to your body, right? Like doing push-ups, sit-ups, etc., it tends to have a heavier toll on your body, and you are forced to stress your body to keep up to the amount of push-up you do compared to other people, and in doing so, it kind of hinders the natural blood flow. Okay, because your blood flow could already be weaker than the average person, right? Let's say someone who can do 30 push-ups, but you do 10. You really feel like your arms getting numb, they're getting needles and pins, and you're kind of losing muscle function. If you try to do 50, it's not going to make you stronger. It's actually going to damage your body. So for people like that when you're doing something slower, it gives them more benefit. Okay, because obviously this isn't a good example, but if the idea is to do 30 push-ups and you can only do 5, then you're not exactly getting much exercise. I mean, it is to the max your body can have, but it's not really a great way to make your body gradually overcome its weakness. Whereas you do something like Tai Chi, which is slow, in the beginning, of course, you're probably going to struggle to do through the whole form, but it was, in a sense, make your body build up your internal flow, blood, qi, whatever you want to call it, better than if you were doing something forceful, alright? Because you are not stressing the muscles, right? Like I keep saying, muscles, when they are stressed, they kind of hinder the blood flow. So your blood flow is the best when all your muscles are relaxed. And by all, I mean all the muscles that you can relax. Right? Obviously, when you hold out your arms, there are going to be some muscles that you need to hold out your arm, otherwise your arm can't be held up. But once your arm is held up, you relax any excessive muscles that you don't need to hold the simple posture. And in doing so, the blood will flow better through your body than if you are tense, right? Which, I mean, if you don't believe this, tense your arm for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you'll find that there'll be less blood and you'll start to feel like it's getting numb. And if you open up your hand, you see that your hand is going to be white. But if you relax, then the hand usually have a slight reddish color, right, which indicates the blood flowing through them. So in that regard, internal martial art, I would say, or any slow exercise, right, non-strenuous exercise, it doesn't have to be internal martial arts, but any exercise that are slow will can have a slightly more benefit to people who are inherently weaker, whose body isn't completely healthy, okay? So for them, these exercises are more suitable. And of course, the benefit of internal martial art, above other slow exercises, is that there's a concept of correct posture, like I already mentioned, concept of ease that guides your body intent, which you can push your blood, guide your blood to flow into places that it might be struggling to go to. For example, I've known people who have issues with having blood reaching the fingertip, right? So the hand is always cold. Even in summer, the hands are cold. But when they're doing Tai Chi, right, by having the correct posture and projecting the E, through the hand to the fingertip, then gradually, after doing 10, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the Tai Chi form, the hand becomes warm. But then, when they stop, obviously, for a while, like when they come next time to class, the hand is cold again. So it does definitely help in that regard. And if you can keep that up every day, then gradually you have less time where your hands are cold and more time where your hands are warm, which is indication that you have a better circulation overall. So this is like how internal martial arts or the concept of qi or blood contribute towards the health conscious, right? Beyond that, I would say there's not much else. Right? Qi isn't a magic power that feed into your longevity. Like you kind of gather qi, you hold them in your dantian, and you can just use them as a fuel to live longer. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I wish people can do that, but that's probably not true. Alright, lastly, we're going to address a common thing, right? People would come and say, okay, if you say qi doesn't, exist, then how come I can make a qi ball, right? When I put my hand over here, I can feel there's like an energy between here, and I can manipulate it. And when somebody else does, I can also feel it. Okay, there are two factors to this. So first of all, there's the factor of heat. Okay, like I've said, when blood don't flow as well, then your hand or your body, any part of the body, it gets cold. When blood flows through, it gets warm. And that warms, okay, qi doesn't travel out of your body. Blood obviously don't travel out of your body, but the temperature, the heat does. So by having more blood flowing to your hands, right, when doing something like this, for example, the more blood flowing to the hand than usual, and thus it kind of projects more heat, right? So when you feel something warm, it's actually the heat, your body temperature, that is more than it usually is. So that's the first thing. Secondly, there's also the influence of of your mind, right? For example, you can tell a person, I'm gonna poke you from behind, even though they can't see you, and even though maybe you're not actually poking them, in their mind it creates the sensation that you're gonna poke them. Okay. So if you say I'm gonna run my finger down your spine without touching, in their mind kind of create that feeling. Sometimes they can actually feel it very, very real. So that's the same thing. When you put your hand together and you believe there's qi, your mind also creates that feeling even when there's nothing there. Okay? So that's how a lot of the hypnosis works, or how some of the internal masters who does like no touch KO and things like that, how that works, right? Is that people who believe it would make it real for themselves. It doesn't mean there's actually something here. Of course, there's heat here, right? But that's only part of what you're experiencing. Often another part is that you're actually creating something in your mind that you think, I'm feeling this chi ball, right? It's very visible. What you experience in that kind of condition doesn't always mean that it's physically something there, okay? Your mind can play tricks and create things that are seemingly real, but they are not. Alright, so this covers everything I wish to add to the previous two videos, and I hope this will conclude my episode on the definition of qi and what it is, and hope everything has made sense to you. If you got any questions, you're welcome to leave a comment below and I'll definitely get back to you. And if you find my videos helpful, please subscribe, and if you can, please support me on Patreon. And if you can't, please try to promote my videos, send to other people who are interested in the topic, and maybe getting more people to understand the real meaning behind all of these internal martial art concepts, rather than believing in fairy tales, mystic concept, and a lot of fake things. Alright, so thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel, and I'll see you next time.